All right, I call to order Thornhill School Board meeting, December 15th. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, order 1.2, mission statement. Can you read that today, Jennifer?
Yep. Our mission is to graduate all students with high levels of academic and personal achievement, ready for post-secondary excellence, prepared for productive, compassionate citizenship through research-based instruction and a collaborative system of support.
Thank you. Any changes or additions to the agenda? Oh, okay, thank you. Number 3.0, we have presentation to the student leadership with us today.
Guys,
Hello.
my name is Caitlin. I'm a senior and the ASB vice president. I'm going to give you a little update on what leadership has been up to. So we're currently in full swing for the Winter Spirit Week. Today was Pajama Day, so it was nice and easy, especially on Monday, to get people involved. We're doing a similar thing as we did with homecoming. We're doing a raffle drawing, so any student who dresses up will get a raffle ticket. And we'll do a drawing every day for a towards a gift card to try to get kids involved in doing something. So that's been good. And then in the past couple of weeks, the leadership class has been making door signs for all the teachers as a little show of appreciation and to help decorate the hallway. So that's been nice, little holiday spirit. We're also currently working on a winter formal for January 17th. We like to do this specifically for the underclassmen who can't go to prom, to give them an incentive to have their grades up, to be able to go to a dance and dress up and do something fun. So we're currently planning for that. And next month, we're also doing a winter sports pep assembly. So at this assembly, we're gonna have our competitive cheer team do their performance for the whole school, which is gonna be great. They competed last weekend in a competition and got second place, so we're really excited for them this year. We're also gonna be introducing all of our winter sports teams. We're gonna have them down, starting to introduce them, talk about upcoming events, and try to encourage students to come to the games. And for our students not involved in athletics, we'll be doing a variety of different games with volunteers, and we'll have prizes for students. And then also starting next month, we're hoping to do a Billy Apparel design contest, similar to the Nike shoes. We're gonna have students submit design proposals for sweatshirts, t-shirts, whatever they like, and then we'll pick a winning designer, and students will have the opportunity to purchase those items. So yeah, that's all I have. Any questions? Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And as always, you don't have to stay if you don't want to. Yeah. Next is public forum. So individuals who are on site during this portion of the board meeting, members of the public are specifically invited to present items of commendation and or concern. At the discretion of the board chair, further public participation may be allowed at the time of specific agenda items are under consideration by the board. Individuals viewing online, we post our upcoming agenda on our website the Friday before regularly scheduled board meetings. This will allow for public comment prior to the board meeting. Please click on the tab there to share your comments for the school board to consider at the upcoming meetings. Personnel matters may not be discussed at public board meetings. Members of the public who have a personnel concern or commendation should share them directly with the district superintendent. We have one from Dustin, it looks like, again.
It's just, I mean, we're still here, we're not going away. Well, I hate to beat the same old drum, but.
Progress.
We're waiting for resolution of this issue.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, we don't have anything to share at this time.
That's all.
Thank you for that. Action items 5.1. So we need to approve our last board meeting minutes from November 17th. Any comments or concerns about the meeting minutes? Anyone? If not, their motions.
I'll move to approve November 17th, 2025 board meeting minutes.
Second. Been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. 5.2, approve December 3rd, our work session minutes. Any comments or questions about those? One? No. All right, I'll hear motions.
We approve the board work session minutes from December 3rd, 2025.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And 5.3 is our enrollment report. Any comments on that from staff or?
Let's make a quick little just assessment of it. We've been really pretty steady from our September numbers, which are 955. Gained 3 kids in October, and we're right back down in November to 955. So it's a nice stable number so far this year.
All right. Comments or questions from anyone about it? All right, I'll hear motions to accept it.
I'll move to accept the enrollment report for November.
Second. Moved and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Passes. 5.4 is our financial report. Summary of that. Jim or Sherry, or did anybody have any questions?
I'll read it out. So revenues currently received just under 2.7 million property taxes for the 25-26 year. Received another just under 4.5 million of our anticipated 9.247 million state school fund payments. Received 218,500 some change in interest in investments, and then another 50,600 in curricular activities such as athletic fees and our game fees. Expenditures for the year. Our salaries through November, 1.9 million, benefits total of just over 1 million in purchase services, supplies and capital outlay. Our expenditures are at 60,971.
That's good. Any questions on anything on the financials? From anyone? No. Guys are talking today. Any motions?
Move approval of or acceptance, excuse me, of the financial report.
Second. Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
5.5, approve the SIA grant.
So this is a state required approval for this particular grant. So just a reminder, in 2022, Department of Ed launches running for student success, which is an integrated guidance, number 6 initiatives, high school success, student investment account, continuous improvement planning, career and technical education, everyday matters, and early indicator intervention systems. And so this is a state required approval from the board. Let's do it through action item. It's recommended the board of directors vote to approve the student investment account grant agreement as presented. Essentially, your approval limits the funds from this grant. So it's been
Sounds good. Questions or comments from anyone?
It's quite a bit of money, too.
Yes, it is. Sure starts to wonder where that money's at.
Quite a long contract as well.
I was roll out. Is. I'll hear motions.
I'll move to approve the SIA agreement.
Second. Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Right. Passes. 5.6, out of state trip for the Pleasant Hill High School Jazz Band.
So our high schools, out-of-state trip request for you to consider tonight. They stated the objectives of the trip are to perform for, listen to, and learn from other music programs and professionals in the music industry. The Surrey Schools Jazz Festival features world-class musicians and educators that our students will interact with and listen or learn from. Listening to and experiencing live music is the most essential and beneficial aspect of music education. Students will be exposed to and participate in a large music festival that features musicians from all over the region. So it's recommended the board of directors approve the Pleasant High School Jazz Band's request to travel to the Surrey Schools Jazz Festival in Surrey, British Columbia. The dates of travel is February 17th through February 22nd. And I know they were here as well as not, Mr. Caitlin as well. And were you guys, this weekend was part of your fundraising as well? You're outside of.
Yeah, we're at Women's Center, staying outside, we made good money.
It's fun to be walking and do there, seeing you guys play.
Yeah.
If you have questions.
Perfect. Do you have anything you want to say, Zachary?
No, just that, we've got a couple of dedicated band students here that are excited about doing this, and, we've been doing trips like this for a few years now, and it's been a highlight of the year for a lot of students, so. We're excited and working on all the logistics and fundraising, and looking forward to the trip.
Nice. Any questions from anyone? No. All right, well, I will hear motions then.
I move to approve the out-of-state trip for the high school jazz band.
Second.
All right, sounds good. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. We go past it. Go ahead. Um. 5.7, approve OSBA elections, board of directors position 6.
So this one here is specific to board of directors, because you've got to have this, which is the policy committee. So their OSBA is asking to take action tonight, and we'll similar to the vote online. We've got the attached candidates are Nicole Graff, Maureen Notberger, and Myra Foster. And the candidate information was provided to you in the packet. So it's recommended the board of directors vote to select one candidate, and it's further recommended the board of directors to recommend you order to submit this vote online to OSBA later than tonight. Any recommendation that you would like to nominate for OSBA board of directors?
Any comments or thoughts from anyone to start with? No. Did you look into these 3 people at all, Jim, or did you?
Just briefly, mentioned this, obviously Nicole DeGraff came at our last board meeting and did some introductions to her. She's obviously got some regional interest in being able to be on this board and is close to us as well. The other two, I think, would fill.
Okay.
I believe Maureen's from Florence, so
Yeah,
Myra Ross's Forte.
I'm sure they would all do fine. That was the only thing that I thought of was Maureen's from a similar sized district as us. And that she had similar interests at heart when she's considering things in the future. I don't know. What do you guys thought?
That was actually my same.
I'm thinking, yeah. Okay, all right. Well, yeah. Any other thoughts or comments, I guess, besides that? Yeah. Well. I guess I'll hear motions if no one has any other points of discussion about it. What does our motion need to look like?
It would, it'd be making a motion to approve one of the 3 candidates as the OSBA
That's who we would pay for essentially.
for the OSBA board of directors.
So I'll move to approve Meyer Robotham as the candidate we would put forward.
Seconds. No.
I'll second it.
Sounds good. Been moved and seconded. Any further comments before we?
I'm sorry, would you repeat the name?
I'm not, it was the 3rd one in the list of 3, Maya Rabasa. That's who Rusty nominated. She is the one from 4J. school district area.
Who was not the one you and Stephen weren't interested in.
You know what? I said the wrong person.
Okay,
I'm sorry. Let me resend that. The wrong name of the right person.
okay. Do we still vote on it? Has it been, or do we just
Seconded, you could amend, the motion.
amend the motion?
I'll amend the motion.
Okay,
And instead, I'm not even trying to say her last name, Maureen,
Miltenberg?
thank you. Milford,
okay,
that's the candidate we would put forward.
sounds good. Do we have to re-second that, or is that just sit how it is now?
Jennifer, we're up to second again.
Yes.
Seconded,
Okay,
times two.
okay, sounds good. Then moved and seconded, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. All right, passes. There we go, we got through that one. 5.8 is USBA elections, so legislative policy committee member.
Yes. So same details, there are two individuals, Judy Newman and Adrian Bullitt. I don't know, I've met Judy a number of times. She's pretty heavily involved in the county and, the board, she's area will be regional, SBA. She's going to be for that as well. Adrian, I don't have any back information on. He's got a pretty extensive background in education. Number of different committees that she's been on, understanding and supporting education. It's a bigger fit for all of these.
And then no insight on the other candidate.
I don't. Adrian is very. Then more, just much more limited as far as, his resume, either in terms of education, your education.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Is Judy currently serving in this position? Is this like, or has she just been around for other things?
So, yes, I believe she's been the legislative policy committee, 2 terms now.
Oh, okay, yeah.
She served on for J budget committee, bonding facilities, oversight committee. Number of different committees, including, the ESD board and representative.
Okay. So, like we have a similar choice here. Between, looks like was Adrian, also from say area, but a little less experience maybe. Any thoughts or comments from anyone? No,
I would lean towards Judy, just like Jen said, just due to her experience and involvement, not only in education, but in OSBA functions that I've been at. Talked to her a few times, but also for just the sake of transparency, she did hire my wife at BC Cares. Not our supervisor, but she was on the hiring panel.
I see. Okay. Thoughts or comments between the two?
I thought I would have would be the larger district versus the smaller rural district perspective. When you start talking about, legislative, bills that affect school districts.
Sure. That makes sense.
Like he cited that several times in his paperwork about basically wanting to represent the rural, smaller district.
Yeah, future stuff is going on, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, personally, I think the more representation we can get from small districts is always good. Sometimes we forgot a little bit. Well, Anybody has any other comments on your nominations for, yeah? Motions, I guess, nominations, motions. No motions. Do we have to throw our support lines in there, or we could always just move along, abstain, voting? I guess that's an option too, if no one feels strongly about either candidate. When's the election or the vote have to be made?
Tonight.
Oh, okay, all right, well, then there you go.
And I would, if you don't get a motion, I would just note for the record, that no motion was provided and we moved on from that.
All right. Well, I'll give you guys 5 more seconds, then there's no motion.
I'll move that we, approve, appoint, or support Adrienne Palut. I'd say that,
Maybe.
or the legislative policy committee position number 6.
Probably say no, but
I'll sign up it. All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
I,
Say aye. All right, passes. 5.9, approved personnel action.
Thanks to Kimberly's sleuthing. We realized in the transition, with Scott resigning.
You're skipping 5.9.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, 5.9. I was like, regards to.
So normal personnel action item, we've got 2 license resignations. One of them, as you see in the report, is to be effective June 30th of 2026, and one of them will be effective February 8th of 2026. And it's recommended the board of directors approve the personnel action for licensed employee as reflected in this resolution. And the addendum presented along with this resolution. The categories included are license resignations.
Sounds good, thanks. Any comments or questions from anyone? All right, I'll hear motions.
I'll move to approve the personnel action as provided.
Second. Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
I,
It passes. And now we're on to 6 unfinished business. For the June 20th board meeting minutes.
Yes, so the attachment units, they weren't approved at the time, just originally, well, no, I was originally the administrative term that was taking place in the summer and fall of 2022. And so they're now brought forward for formal approval to complete the district's official record. So recommend the board of directors approve June 2022 regular board meeting minutes, which were previously unapproved.
Comments? Questions?
I wasn't on the board, so I'm going to
Okay.
stay quiet.
I remember that meeting like it was yesterday.
Like it was too.
Approve those minutes. Perfect, good work.
Second.
Oh, Tom. All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 4 yeses and 1 abstaining. Now on to 7, reports and information, 7.1, elementary school report scorecard.
Yes, so we've actually got 7.1, 0.2, and 0.3 that will just go in succession tonight. During our last meeting, I presented to you the measurable action items that were part of the school farm development. And so this will be our first kind of official report out for that. You'll see this in a, what's called a stoplight, which is obviously it's red as it begins with the measurable progress and particular item, but there's some action taking place, and if it's green, it's in place. Of course, there's nuance to all of that. It's a very long report, but there's some good detail for you. This has been our first report, of course, some feedback as well.
Good.
Yeah. Right. Well,
Right. Is the booker gonna work for them? All right, there's gonna be a lot of words. I'm not gonna read it verbatim. I'm gonna focus on our progress measures, which are gonna show you where our stoplights are at the elementary and then what our plans are to move those stoplights if they're yellow or red forward or continuing to stay in the green. So pillar one, that academic equity and viable curriculum. Our focus at the elementary school is those early literacy benchmarks and instructional equity. So the progress measures that we're using at the elementary school to track our progress on these are 70% of K-3 students meet grade level reading benchmarks. We're currently at a yellow, and on the next slide, I'll show you some data related to that. That we provide targeted intervention strategies for students, we're green in that area. And that we look at our data by subgroups and make sure that we're really using those equitable instructional practices. So kindergarten and first grade, it's a little shadowy up there. Currently 30 of 58 students are meeting in kindergarten, which is a 52%, 35 of 59 students in first grade, 59%. And then so if you see up there, red means intervention. And then the on watch is like in between meeting grade level benchmarks and kind of in between intervention. And so if you look at the numbers of intervention and you look at the number of students we're serving in WIN, we are serving more students in WIN than our testing into intervention. So it's a really great way for us to show that we are meeting students where they're at. And in second and third grade, you can see the numbers again. 61% currently meeting in second grade and 50 currently meeting in third grade. In order for us to regularly disaggregate our student performance data, we need to sync our STAR data with Oregon Data Suite, which is what pulls from our student information system Synergy. So we're in the process of completing a data sharing agreement between Renaissance Star and Oregon Data Suite. That can happen, and then it will be able to pull more robust reports about the groups that we're serving and how. That is pillar one. Pillar two is student well-being and emotional support. So in elementary school, it's increasing access to mental health services. It's our SEL lessons, and it's reducing discipline incidents by those subgroups. So Care Solace is our program that we use to refer students and families for outside counseling services. And then we look at the percent of students referred for academic and behavioral support. We are currently looking at different survey results. We need to look at SEED, and we just received our results for the Upbeat survey, which was a staff survey. Our counselor, Mrs. Black, teaches SEL lessons to every class weekly. We are currently at 70, I'll show you on the next slide the data for our regular attenders. Again, reducing those exclusionary disciplines for subgroups, and then tracking progress monitoring for those students who are getting that extra support. So here is Care Solace data. And we have had two, what we call warm handoffs to students that are receiving outside counseling services. We have had 13 referrals. 2 of these are like end of last school year tested at the beginning of the school year. So 13 students, or 3%, referred for special education evaluation this year. And the number of students receiving individual or small group support this year, we have 28 students who do a one-on-one check-in with Mrs. Black, and 43 students who access a small group like social skills or problem-solving group with Mrs. Black as well. This is just an example of our counseling schedule, so you can see each class used her regularly, and then on Thursdays and Fridays is really where her schedule is available to work one or in small groups for that kind of tier 2 intervention for behavior and emotional support. We use a program called Second Step, which is our social emotional learning curriculum, and having Mrs. Black teach that is a really great way that it builds each year. That students are learning skills that really tie into our learner profile, those character traits, how to communicate, how to problem solve, how to advocate for themselves. It's a great program. Here is our regular attender data. We are currently sitting at 82%, which is fantastic. I'm worried about the illness that is hitting our building right now. We had 50 students out ill today and sent about another 10 home. So it's these winter months really take a toll on our attendance. So keeping people happy and healthy and coming to school. You can see the top of this triangle, but this is our behavior referral data. So we're sitting at about 93% of students with 0 or 1 behavior referrals. Ideally in PBIS, the goal is 80 to 85% increase. So at the elementary school, we're really in a great position. And then here is that disaggregated data on suspensions. There's no expulsions, suspensions by group. So 1 student has had 2 suspensions this year. This is the results of our Upbeat survey. So it's a research-based educator engagement and retention survey used to assess school climate, culture, and the teacher experience. So these are the results of our staff survey. I think they said 88% of the elementary staff, so that's both certified and classified, took this survey with 21 categories across staff's experience. And on our staff, at our staff meeting on Wednesday, we're going to talk about this as a staff. We're going to look at strengths, look at areas of growth, and kind of make some plans together on those areas that we are seeing less satisfaction. I do think one to highlight here on this next slide, which you can't see, is sorry. Belonging and well-being, which really ties into this pillar, is at 90%. And so that's a really important thing when we think about culture in a school building, especially for staff who want to come every day and show up for kids. And then there's the last portion of the results. There it is, number 16. So our actions for this pillar to be completed is Whitney and I are looking at a more formal way of tracking SPED and behavior referrals. We need to look over our state results, which are from our 3rd through 5th graders. When they took the state test in the spring, they also took the SEED survey, so really diving into some of that information. Continuing to maintain current regular attender percentages through attendance recognition and incentives and keeping kids healthy. We will track progress monitoring growth at the next round of our data teams, post mid-year assessments, and we'll talk about that more in the next pillar. And then, like I said, on that Wednesday, the teachers and I are gonna go through the Upbeats survey results and look at strengths and areas for improvement. Okay. Look at my slides, because it's hard to see. Pillar 3 is data-driven decision-making. I would say that this is the pillar that we are strongest at in the elementary school. We have some really strong systems in place that I inherited, that Deborah had in place, and then we're just working to continue to improve them. So we have fully operational data teams, and we regularly progress monitor students using MTSS tools. Again, that's that one time, that intervention for a focus on core in literacy this year. So we have fully operational data teams. I'll explain how we kind of set those up on the next slide. 100% of educators trained in data literacy, especially as we roll out STAR this year. We've done a lot of work with how are we reading those reports. We've done some training with them. 90% of students with progress monitoring plans showing improved academic behavior outcomes, and 85% of staff reporting the use of data to differentiate instruction, and that's 100% in our building. So we run a week of data team meetings every day after school, grade level a day after school, and then both 4th and 5th grade on Fridays after a benchmark testing window. So in September, we did this to look at the first round of STAR benchmark testing, and then in between our benchmark windows, every Monday, we rotate through a grade level. So we'll start with kinder, then the next week will be 1st grade. And we use an agenda that looks similar to this. This is a screenshot, and there's a hyperlink there. And we look at tier 1, 2, and 3 data in reading, math, and behavior. We talk about speech and language concerns, we talk about TAG, we talk about SPED support. And it's this agenda is a new addition to the existing data team structures that are in place, and I think it's been a really good way for us to drive those conversations and have a really good record of who's getting what, and we also have like a place where we can make notes about students who are on watch and what we're doing to support them. So in meeting those progress measures, we have completed 2 trainings with STAR on data literacy, CBM, which is curriculum-based measures, and CAT, which is computer adaptive test, and looking at our record book and interpreting scores. And then we did a training on having leading the STAR data conversations right before conferences, so teachers could share reports with parents. Again, in January, when we have that January 26th to the 30th, right after our next benchmarking window, we will have a week of data teams. We'll look at recent data and really track that percentage of students showing growth. And then 100% of teachers are using data to differentiate instruction. Every teacher in grade level uses STAR data to place students in win groups, and teachers also use this data to form small groups for instructions in math as well. Okay, pillar 4. This is really that tied to the learner profile. And if pillar 3 is our strongest pillar, pillar 4 is the area we have most growth to do in the elementary school. I think the middle and high have done a really nice job of embedding the learner profile into the work that they're doing, and I think it looks different at the elementary school. It's happening, it's just happening more so, like I said, in those SEL lessons and through our PBIS programs, and really our Billy Spirit, so the different character traits that we highlight each month. So looking at embedding student-centered principles, having students self-assess when appropriate, so for us, that would be in 5th grade. Looking at those learner profile attributes, and then also embedding responsibility and integrity into feedback and reflection systems. So we have a lot of red stoplights on this. Documenting and aligning where student-centered principles and learner profile attributes are already happening in our building. They are happening, we just need a more formal way to document this and see which components of the learner profile are we already really hitting, and what are areas where we can provide more opportunities. And then 5th grade students as self-assessing quarterly. Like I said, creating a list of opportunities where the learner profile is embedded and where we can really think about those communication, character, and critical thinking skills. And then 5th grade students also goal setting and reflecting. So yeah, we'll work with the staff to create that list. And through this process, identify which attributes we are strong in addressing and which we could really provide more teaching and learning opportunities. Especially when we think about our 5th grade students, and helping prepare them for middle school and high school and building on those learner profile attributes in the time. Now, a lot of information and a lot of people. And we've got 2 more schools. Any questions before I pass the clicker to Taylor?
Is this slideshow just like introductory one and like future ones will have data presented differently? I'm assuming?
It'll have data towards our progress.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Or want to keep some consistency so you can start to see what growth occurs.
Yeah, that's easier to monitor each thing and see how it's going. Other questions you want? No, all right. Thank you, Brad. Jason.
Great, so we'll move into the middle school. I'll do my best to not be too redundant. The setup is the same. In terms of the structure of the presentation. So really, I'll try to focus on those actions and progress measures that are specific for middle school. So this first one, we'll talk about academic equity and a viable curriculum. So first, you can see in your packet, you can see at the beginning where we address the fact that our goal by the end of the year is to have 60% of our courses with clearly articulated student-facing learning targets. We haven't begun this work yet in middle school, so that's a red light for us, but we'll jump into that starting with the second semester. When we look at 8th grade math proficiency based off of the STAR assessment, we'll get into this a little bit more later in pillar 3. But our goal of 29%, which is the state average from 24-25 of 8th grade math students on track, is measured using the STAR assessment. And then STAR benchmark outcomes will be tracked against the state math proficiency targets. So in our fall benchmark screenings, this is all of our 8th graders. You can see here that 39 or 76 students, so 51% are currently at or above benchmark on that screener, while 15%, or excuse me, while 15 students, 20% fall below the 10th percentile, 10 students, 13% of 8th graders fall between the 10th and 24th percentile, and we had 12 students representing 16% fall between the 25th and 39th percentile. You can see here we disaggregated our academic performance by student groups. We're looking at these 2 various charts. You can see that if a student is in the dark green, they're classified as no risk, so they have 0 Ds or Fs in all of their classes. Light green, low risk, 1 D or 1 D or F, excuse me, and then orange is some risk. That student has 2 Ds or Fs. And then red representing students that are as high risk with 3 or more Ds or Fs. On the left, you can see it by focal groups. We have our students on 504s, students with English as their second language, and then our students with limited English proficiency, students on in special education on IEPs, and then our tag students. And the chart on the right represents students by primary race and how they fall into these specific risk categories. Pillar 2, we talk about student well-being and emotional support. So you can see here that for the middle school, we currently have had 2 completed appointments via CareSolace, 2 cases. We've had 69 total communications. So when we look at some of these, this data in the upper left, we're really, and then the KPIs on the right, we're really looking at how CareSolace has saved us time as a district, how they've been effective on our behalf to better serve our students. Below that, we have our referrals to our school counselor. So you can see that we have a total of 17 referrals to the school counselor. We had in the highest were in 7th grade with 47%. We have 35% of our referrals in 6th grade and 17.6% in 6th grade. And then you can see the various categories. These are referrals that staff are making to the school counselor to support students. So we have things ranging from anxiety, emotional regulation, peer relationships, attendance, family relationships, homelessness, resource insecurity. When we look at our student climate survey, so this is one that is actually a middle high combined. So we're looking at all 6 adult students in this one. When we look at the data from spring 2025 to fall 25, we see a decrease in students reporting that staff care how they're doing from 82 to 71%, that they feel heard by adults 74 down to 66%, with a slight decline in feeling respect from staff from 82% to 79%. However, at the same time, trusted adult connection increased from 75 to 78%, and activity connection increased from 74 to 77%. So this is the same survey that Brenna referenced earlier in terms of the upbeat survey. So at middle school, we had staff participation at 90% with an average engagement score of 62, which is 6.2 points below the district comparison. Strength areas included care and commitment at 96%, satisfaction and purpose at 93%, while lower scoring areas included appreciation at 26%, work-life balance at 41%, evaluation at 48%, teacher voice and leadership also at 40%, recruiting, hiring, and onboarding at 47%. This is really good data for us to be able to look at our practices, see how we can better support our staff. When we look at attendance, I'm looking at that regular attenders, the students that attend school at 90% or more. We have 76% of our middle school students, 185 students are currently regular attenders, while 24%, 57 students are quote unquote chronically absent, meaning they attend school less than 90%. We also have our exclusionary data up there as well. We have 0 expulsions. You can see the number of out of school suspensions we have broken down by result of race and ethnicity. When we look at our progress monitoring plans, that's a red for us, middle school, but formal progress monitoring plans, we'll get into that work starting in the 2nd semester, really utilizing our data team cycles for that work. Bullet 3, data driven decision making. So when we look at our data teams, that's a yellow for us. So our middle school data team has met September, October, November, and December. We're reviewing attendance, behavior, and academic data to guide our multi-tiered system to support decisions, monitoring student progress. As it relates to data literacy, that's a red for us in middle school. Training to ensure that 100% of our educators are data literate has not begun, but it will begin starting the 2nd semester. When we look at progress monitoring, that's also a red for us because formal progress monitoring plans are not yet implemented. We're not currently able to report on the measure that 90% of students with plans show improved academic or behavioral outcomes. This pertains to differentiated instruction, that's a red for us in middle school as well. Formal survey data on staff use of data to differentiate instruction are not yet being collected, but those will be captured as systems are established. I referenced this earlier in terms of our goal, 29% of students in 8th grade STAR being on track. See here again, there's that 15% of 8th grade students currently at or above, meeting the at or above benchmark. Pillar 4 about being future ready. In terms of staff training on student-centered principles and learner profile integration, that's yellow for us. Teachers have received professional development on student-centered principles, learner profile integration, emphasis on alignment across the subjects. For planning and observation related to the learner profile, that's red for us in middle school. Work to align planning, observation, feedback, and reflection tools with flexible learning tasks and not yet begun, is identified as upcoming. Regarding instructional coaching cycles, that's red for us in middle school as well. Instructional coaching cycles are currently being developed and will include collaborative reviews and work to calibrate expectations for demonstrating learner profile attributes. Finally, digital citizenship, that's a red light for us. Currently, planning is underway to embed digital citizenship, plagiarism prevention instruction, including responsible AI use, into advisory and or English language arts courses with exploration of Google's Be Internet Awesome framework to reinforce responsibility, integrity, and safe online behavior. What I got?
When did the beat surveys come in, or how long we have that data?
Sorry. Really?
Okay, is that a once a year thing, or is that a multi?
There'll be another one in the spring.
Okay, that was for teachers, right? You heard the staff, yeah.
That's a contract through. Consortium called REN through Laney SD. I believe we have that contract for at least 2 years. So we'll be able to get this year's data next year soon.
Looks like there's a lot to do and finding the time to do it must be difficult.
Yeah, it helps. I think this gives concrete action though, and if you've got to, yes, there's a lot to do, but I think this actually helps really ground specifically of the direct, what it is we're supposed to do, not just, yeah, this is ethereal, the work.
Thanks, Caleb.
I think what we have here is an opportunity to see both the great things that are happening in our buildings, but also the great work. And I think that's the benefit of the start work and stop right framework. Specifically that we're looking to here, we're gonna walk through how we're aligning both our day-to-day action into the strategic plan. And better yet, we'll even share various like cutouts of staff PDs, exactly showing you what we're doing, our groups that kind of help this work forward. And that's where we're coming back to academic equity in our curriculum as okay, we're going to talk about it. This one, we're looking at this is job consistency across our curriculum. So that way we can see that every student has a consistent positive academic experience. Our main levers for this is kind of been highlighted before. We're looking at student facing learning targets. So students clearly know what they'll be learning and how they'll be assessing it. So this is what we talk about. Think about success criteria. So a student will know A, what's the most important thing that's happening in that lesson, and then B, how we'll get there. And then we'll start looking at other pieces here. This is how we disaggregate our achievement data. We do this so we can look for themes and how best to support other folks. It's just as important to identify gaps early as opposed to doing it at the end of the semester where it's more awesome. If we're looking here, this is where the high school is landing on our stoplights. We looked at our bio curriculum. We've been doing a considerable amount of focus on our course outlines, so talking about it for report. Social studies also gets the unique opportunity to go through the adoption process, so we brought the team together, PSD as a group to look through some of this work and potential curriculum. And then we'll look at we've been diving into instructional practices at the high school and what specific instructional moves have the highest leverage to move to achievement. Once again, the most return on investment. And so we're co-developing with our staff, like our go-to tier 1 strategies. That process and do it and then tier 2. And when I say tier 1 and tier 2, this is what everybody gets that first opportunity, and then after staff review what's happening with them for the folks that don't get it. If we're thinking about instructional equity, this is how often and when and who is needing to go with data. So we have our weekly student data supports where we're going through the ABCs of school attendance, behavior, and credits earned. This can happen in live time and we're looking at grades. And then we have our monthly 9th grade team meeting. The researcher school year, ODE's been guiding us in this direction for a long time with 9th grade. Even in a building as unique as ours, where they're transitioning from one side of the hallway to the other, it's still a big jump for folks. The level of rigor increases, families and society think that 9th graders have more autonomy and an ability to handle things on their own, so they often step back. And so this, with our 9th grade meetings, is a way for us to invest in these young folks to make sure that they have the skills that we expect and not just some make assumptions about what they're at. And then we're looking at quarterly all staff grade review, and we've started that process already, where staff are starting to build their data literacy skills and looking both not only within their own curriculum, but seeing achievement across the board, which gives folks a chance to reflect and compare. And so these are direct slides taken out of our PD. So while I won't make you go through the chart and talk, you can at least see like behind the curtain a little bit of what we're asking folks to do. And so MTSS is the engine that drives our work. This shows you exactly, once again, in this no risk, into some risks, to low to high. There's a couple different takeaways from these slides. We have a lot of students finding success early on, so we want to celebrate both the tier 1 success that's happening. Students are getting an opportunity, and then they're showing efficiency through those opportunities. And then secondly, as we're starting to look, what are the different, if I switch to 10th grade, what are some of our subgroups and our focal groups, students on 504, students who with emerging language, students who are supported by an IEP, and students who are identified as non-gifted? What are the various areas do we need to invest in, both for folks in that tier 1 environment, and then also our reteaching for folks who didn't get that first round? And so if we're thinking about this, these risk levels, they're not labels, but they're a call for adult action. And so when we do this routinely, once again, weekly, monthly, quarterly, with various folks involved in all 3 settings, we start to see our practice shift and our comfort with data increase, and then opportunities for us to see what are some of those next steps. And so, like, direct reminders for staff as we were going through, and now, this is our 11th grade. Is we're kind of starting to reflect on self-efficacy and collective efficacy. If our teachers believe in themselves and their instruction, if they believe in the teams that do the work together, and they believe in the students can meet high expectations, we can have high expectations. But without high levels of scaffolding to get up to high levels of expectation, we just have a sinker swim mindset. And so these are opportunities for us to check their distance and time, where students are at any particular day, month, quarter, once again. And so once again, we see very success and areas for improvement for us as we move forward. Same grade, sorry, the clicker was broken. And then so as we shift into 11th grade, similar, it's a mindset, right? We are doing this not only all by courses or by grades, but also by subgroups. So this way we can see like how close folks are in 11th grade, specifically to post-secondary readiness. Once again, academic progress, dependence, and behavior is our guide for targeted success. And then up here at our senior level, lots of green here, healthy system, where we're seeing folks who are ready to see who's on track to graduate, who's ready to begin that next step in their 5th-year plan. And what we often see here is supports for credit completion, attendance, and future planning. We want to make sure that we have as many folks as possible that get a walk across that graduation stage and celebrate with us, because that's the collective work of 12 years, 13 years, pardon, with kinder years of experience. And like these numbers that go on a report card are the entire district's achievement. And so, you know, as we're looking at these numbers, these are the folks that we might connect with weekly or daily, especially in semester 2, about the progress they need to make. If we're looking here at pillar 2, we have the opportunity of kind of diving into our safety, belonging, and access. Really, this asks the question is, what do our students need to learn? This goes directly to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If we just drop someone into a classroom without those basic needs being met, they will not gain or much of that environment. And so this highlights here our systems for focusing, track referrals, deliver SEL lessons, improving attendance, and reducing our discipline exclusionary factors. And so here's where our stoplights align. If we're looking at access to mental health supports, I don't know if that work will ever be done, but we've done some good work in outlining what every kid gets. When folks still show need, what many kids get, and then once again, those wraparound supports for those few students, much like Fred was talking about our MTSS triangle. And then we have our counseling tracking form that I'll show you the results from, and also our care solids data. And then moving forward, I think we have great movement in monthly advisory lessons. This is where we're embedding social emotional learning, which is I would say maybe not as common or popular in the high school level, but still much needed. And then with, high school appropriate language, we can kind of think, we can use that as more reflection opportunities for students. And then also we have our climate survey, our upbeat survey. And then if we look at student progress monitoring, we have our weekly high school support data team that will be able to kind of walk through some of those examples here. So not a surprise to folks, right? We're thinking about the ABC to school, attendance, behaviors and credits. If students aren't, if they're not here for a particular reason, or if they're here, but they're in crisis, they're not going to be able to move forward on our learning path. And so this is directly from our staff referral process for counseling. You can see the grades broken down, who need levels of support. And this is staff to staff, right? And then, so I think we see some positive things here as we're looking at 9th graders, make up 22% of our responses, and then 10th graders to 11th graders, with the absence of 12th graders. So is that a really positive sign that our 12th graders are perfect? Probably not. But do we see increased student autonomy and empowerment where they go directly to the counselor that they've been working with for the last 3 years? That's what I hope. And as we look at various levels here, once again, we're trying to build the capacity of our underclassmen. And if we look at some of the reasons why people are needing support, right? We notice when people are gone, we see people marking in attendance. We need folks to help us build these educational plans. Once again, our 5-year plan for something that's both required by the state, but a great opportunity for us to have students future ready. And I think our staff know and care about our students, so they know when something is off and they see signs for depression. And they can identify when folks are going through loss. I think just as important, we see suicidal ideation and self-harm. This is not just a form, we call these more handoffs, so if anybody is expressing this level of concern, right? We have protocols in place for staff members to physically bring that student to the counselor, so that way no one's lost in transit. And the information is not forgotten or given hours later in email. Similar report for Care Solace. I think the benefit of this, as staff will attest to, is not necessarily the time saved for staff, but the investment made in our families. If you just look at these indicators here, right? Communication to staff, they're pretty quick responses. Email updates kind of given progress, but communication with providers, hey, you accept this insurance, do you not? Okay, up next step, right? But really communication with client, 135 minutes. I think as us all, I want to say regulated adults have navigated the medical field, it can be very frustrating trying to get first to your primary, then to a secondary insurance, go to your primary care, or giving the referral link, go to a specialist, right? It can be rather daunting and you're playing phone tag. You take that same system and put it in a family that's navigating trauma and go into the grief cycle. Care Solace, I think, is return on investment right there. So that way families are getting support. We've had 4 total cases this year with 133 various pieces of communication. So we see folks getting the help that they need. And we are also suspecting that we've made referrals for folks, and through the counseling referral as well, we see people self-selecting for therapy and other levels of mental health support. So Care Solace is one avenue, but not the end all be all. And I think once again, it's also a sign of people advocating for themselves. So we have 2 different data sets that complement.
So the anonymous searches, that's what that's referring to.
Guide you to it.
It's exactly down that's that bottom there. It's kind of, it's really funny, it's hard to see, it's anonymous searches. I was just curious what that's referring to.
I don't know enough about that part, to be honest. To answer
And
that.
I believe it's anyone that does involve money. Anonymous, we can't identify who they are. It's hard to see.
So they've accessed it to they've accessed to find support services outside of this role.
Correct. What it really indicates for us is the amount of people that are searching for it that we can actually identify and either get into the system or perhaps even through the communication with staff, perhaps get through the referral process for services with home counselors.
Right.
So it's a positive sign to see that there's only one.
Great. Similar to Caleb's presentation, the middle high school has similar overall summary and data from our climate survey, because it is 6/12 survey. And so without being overly repetitive, I think we both have really positive places where kids feel supported and we have connections, and that work is never done. We want to make sure that we invest not only in our athletics, but all of our clubs, and find ways for students to feel connected on campus. And within our SEL curriculum, once again, which is down here, this is our advisories that have been happening. Which I think are a shift forward for our building, where we're seeing students, we're getting direct information from where we've been and using this growth criteria to help build these advisories. And so this is our roadmap. So students need to know what are their rights and responsibilities and expectations. So we guided them through both how they access that and how we safely interact with our community to ensure we're ready. And then we're inviting folks in to build connection with homecoming, getting student voice, and through our advisories, in that student climate. And then we're also like paying tribute, and learning from others with our Veterans Day, planning for our future with CIS. We'll return to this routinely. Once again, it's one of our OT requirements. And then even just like solidify today, like planning for the future, reflecting with some of our gratitude as we start to think about how folks rely on stability, structure, and sometimes the love and care that they give to school, and how those systems will be gone for 2 weeks, and how that would be wonderful for many and very hard and challenging for some. We're looking here, once again, here's more updates for us. This is our new system here. And this is staff driven and provided. So I will zoom in on a couple of different pieces here that kind of helps target some of the communication in our support structures, as it's also tying directly to our leadership moves. So if we're looking at here, principal teacher trust, right? We see where some of the leaders in the district here, and also we have really high, successful, positive numbers. And once again, that work isn't done, but we're starting to see that folks know they can trust the people they're working with. They feel like there's camaraderie and well-being with each other, and then we're starting to look like that we are investing in backing them up when it matters most. And if we start thinking back, we started talking about that collective teacher advocacy, how that drives a lot of the work. Teachers feel successful. And that is some of our biggest measures for teacher burnout and recruiting and retention. If we build on the strength and success there, we can keep quality educators here and not have to go through the hiring and training cycle again and again. We'll see stability and continued growth. And as we're looking up here, right, we see that folks are using different student social emotional development, and what that. We have regulated adults investing in kids, we start seeing higher levels of regulated students. And then we have higher levels of regulated students, we have safer systems and higher outcomes. Same thing with teacher voice and leadership. Once again, this work is never completely done, but we take this information and we know that we need to return to our staff to get more feedback on some of the practices that have been happening in practice closer to the future. Evidence and actions, we've developed new teacher lead teams, so that way it encompasses staff from all levels within our building. And we've created that instead of as an ad hoc, kind of as needed, they're now monthly meetings, so that way folks can have a hand on the wheel as we're driving forward. And what that does is just increases trust and communication and transparency. We also see that and I think this number reflects part of that. They start seeing that they have a process or a part of driving the work forward with some of the culture in our building. And so I think those are all really positive clues. If we return back to the ABCs of school, right, once again, attendance is our most important piece here, or at least our first step. We have 70% of students who are considered regular attenders. Once again, feedback, anybody under 90% we consider chronically absent. But really, here's some of our number of where we land If a family takes a hunting trip and they're gone for 5 days in September, they will be chronically absent most likely for the entire duration of the school year. And because it just continues to build until the averages change. And so what we use information for is we look at these different appointments, illness, medical, and other, is we start looking for unverified to see who do not know, where they're at. And we want to make sure that the piece that families hold value towards, like these great opportunities for a future, that we understand that, and then we're not pestering families over those specific reasons. We're looking for folks who are like disengaging, because we'll see the numbers increase month after month, because those averages will improve for that first example. And then once again, we go through our demographic breakdowns here, so we can see who we're missing and who we're not. We don't have eyes on, and then see if there's various levels of support. We're pretty lucky in a lot of other districts who will see greater levels of highs and lows. We're pretty steady here. And it's just had the opportunity to work in other places where attendance isn't as targeted, isn't as valued the same, isn't as easy to monitor. And so I think we're doing a lot of things well. And this, if we're looking at behavior, here we see the various levels and events that are happening. And this both drives our social emotional advisory learning. And where we see our occurrences happening both on the minor level within classrooms and then the majors down here. So there's two positives here. We have staff increasing in their capacity to both reach out to families and support students in the classroom. So we have our minor referral form that has been distributed to staff, and that allows folks to see and look for trends as they're supporting individual students. And then down here, we have our majors, where we start to see various levels of consequences that move past the warning, the call home, the individual conference, where we see loss of privileges. And that could be a lunch detention, it could be a Friday school, it could be a Saturday school, or unfortunately, what happens from time to time as well is our suspensions. We haven't had any expulsions, so that's great news. And if we're looking here, we've only had 8 suspensions total. And once again, we track that across all demographics to make sure that they are disproportionate. If we're looking here, pillar 3, pillar 3 gives us the opportunity once again to start looking at data and some of these outcomes. And we're starting to look at how we differentiate our instruction. That allows us to respond differently to different students. Okay, there we go. So we have data team functions. Once again, we referenced this before. We have our data team minutes, where we weekly give our freshmen on track, where we meet monthly. We consider this in the yellow here. Then we have student progress monitoring and our on track, both education for students and for staff. And these are just minutes directly taken out of our high school data teams. Once again, each Monday we meet for an entire period. We go through our welcome, our purpose, our focus, review our last items, so that way information isn't forgot. We talk about which students we're supporting, so that way we don't work in isolation. We're breaking silos here, and we're increasing collaboration. Similar experiences happening at the 9th grade on track level, where we're having each teacher. And I'm really proud of our staff for doing this, because they're leading the work in here, where they're coming in on teacher days and they're reviewing as a team, and they're going through which students are not finding success. They're sharing strategies, they're sharing what's working, they're tracking, they're monitoring, and we see some really great things happening out of this work. And then here is a similar message about our continuous improvement cycle. We are looking forward, and this was put out into both our student handbooks and in our counseling centers, and we're tracking the various years of where students are and how much credit they are. If we're in the green, our senior year, we've done a lot of great things. We will probably have more credits than we need. That is wonderful. And then that is different when we respond to folks. As an example, in my 11th grade year, if I only have 10 credits, I'm behind schedule. How do we intervene? What do we respond to? And what are some of the tools? And that changes once again for a sophomore who's in our red. We're gonna need more extensive support in different levels of investment. If we're wrapping up here with pillar 4, similar experiences to my colleagues here, this allows us to focus on our learner profile integration, student self-assessments and different demonstration of skills. And what we have here is our tier 1 instructional PD, as we referenced before, where we're starting to see what are some of our high level foods that get students thinking, reading, writing, and speaking critically. Those are aspects of our profile where we're investing in folks that have similar experiences and where we're investing in content and skill. And I would say lastly, where we're bringing the learner profile, which is a district commitment, explicitly into our curriculum and planning, into our course outlines. And then as we're kind of looking at this last piece, where it talks about student responsibility and the education piece, where we're looking at different places where they're getting that opportunity, and primarily this lives within our advisories. So this is referenced before. This is when we're starting to talk about teacher efficacy is the top bar. I got cut off, I apologize. And then response to intervention, student efficacy, teacher clarity, feedback. These are some of our high leverage moves. This slide is directly taken out of PD, and what this talks about, we're looking for leverage points where we have the strongest impact for our students with our adult actions. This, once again, taken directly out of our PD, what instructional strategies should every ability experience, regardless of teacher subject or grade level, what are those common experiences and how are they tied to learner profile? So this is the question we're putting forth in front of staff and looking to create that shared list. Folks in their table groups will build, their 5 core instructional strategies that they think everybody should practice, and then that will link back to learner profile. And then this is the not only the how, but the what they're doing in order to make sure students are living their learner profile. This is probably a picture you know and love, right? And so this has been routine in our PDs as we're looking towards building these competencies. And this is directly taken out of our PD cycle where we're looking once again to the hopes that we have for our students. So it's purposeful. And then also what components of staffing we're training on. And so as they're going through this curriculum, right, they're ensuring that their learner profile promises live within our curriculum. And so, and then within our unit planning, we provide staff time in their teacher times to work on this. Folks have turned in their course outlines for us to review. We're going through that process where we're seeing high levels of intentional focus. And then once again, as I wrap up here, this is just the exact, once again, out of PD cycles for staff as we're trying to understand first our cell phone ban, and then allowing them to directly have input in this process. And this is really important. We want clear expectations, consistent routines for our students and staff. And we want staff to be able to support. We want staff input on this policy. This was happening, and that's what we're driving that work. So thank you for that. Where we can shape that policy, then we wanted it sustainable for staff. And then this kind of, as I wrap up here, is 2 of our objectives from our first 2 advisories, where we're just looking at both modeling what is student facing learning targets, right? They're just 2 different slides. But how we can, empower students by knowing exactly what they'll do within this learning experience, right? And then what's the point of it? So that kind of ties back to exactly what we're talking. This week, we'll be doing the same level of work with gratitude and how we rest and recharge and navigate stress, both in our structures and our support look different. So I think that'll be important for folks as we start thinking about transferable skills when we're in and we're out of the building. And I think that this is a really great opportunity for us to highlight what we're doing, but also show the alignment of systems and how we start seeing sustainable systems that also impact this.
Thank you. Oh, the audience member question, sure.
Just real quick. This is a really uncomfortable question for me to ask and probably more uncomfortable for you to answer. What purpose does the race data serve?
So you do or you don't?
I mean,
Oh, sorry.
out of all the slides, I saw a lot of slides with data broken down by race. I'm just curious what it serves.
It's another trend, it's another cross section as far as data, is to look at it, so we can even dig deeper. To identify to make sure that every single student we're moving along. It's just one more indicator.
But
I just had to answer, I can't debate
I'm just curious, what purpose does it serve?
to find every single student.
A is required, right, and it's a measurement to make sure that every student feels safe and successful in our school system. And if the data shows that that's not happening, we need to respond and make sure that it does.
I guess I'm really confused on those answers. I was expecting to hear it were required to do it by the state, but I don't understand what a child's race has to do with feeling belonging in this school. I'm just concerned about the data that we look at and then tell our children about. That's not a comfortable thing to discuss in a public forum like this, but I appreciate you guys being honest.
Sure, thank you. Any other questions or concerns about any of the school reports? On the treatment of life? All right, now,
No, just thank you, lots to take me out.
yeah. 7.4
Oh,
superintendent.
sorry, this is simple formatting, it's not easy to read, but I'm sure. You guys don't need me to point that out, but just in terms of feedback, even on the computer, it's hard to read. Some of the stuff that was in there.
Was there a portion that came through better than others as far as?
I mean, there's so much in there, it was across like all three buildings, there was some stuff that was in there that was blurry or too small. And zooming in, since it wasn't the highest resolution, didn't really help. I don't know if I was the only one who experienced that, but. Even up here, there was some stuff that was hard to read.
Thank you.
Sorry, Drew.
No, you're good.
I really liked when Middle High could point out those comparisons between spring of last year and fall of this year. I think when all three of you come back with the progress update, to have those call outs of this really improved, this really didn't, pointing out those things was super helpful. The changes, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
All right, yeah, I agree, Jennifer. All right, 7.4 superintendent report.
Yeah, so start just, I want to thank our administrative staff, but then also our licensed and classified staff as well. For the work that they're doing. I think following this from kind of its inception, we were talking about integrated guidance, putting together our plan, working on a profile, developing goals. Our last work session with Kristen, where she pointed out just kind of this overarching, from the top down belief that every student can learn and will learn, and then being able to, I think, see the different levels and just the idea of trying to reach that place where we've got this cohesive system, K through 12, is really the idea behind this and making sure we're bringing every single student along. So thank you guys for that. So this next piece is the embargo data. So that's the Oregon Medical Plans data. is now not embargoed anymore, so it's open for us to do that. And again, going back to the integrated guidance and the longitudinal targets, those 5 targets that we've set, measures around is what I'm here to talk to you about tonight. And the difference between what you just looked at, which is kind of this real-time type of data, the work that we're doing, this is really that autopsy report, because it is a year old, and in some cases with our graduation data, a year beyond last year. But we'll go through that. So I put that I'm going to jump straight to regular attenders. So we're currently sitting in this again for the 24-25 school year. Came in at 71.9% of our students at meeting the regular attender definition. Our target was 77%. And you can see by subgroups there, students experiencing poverty at 61, students with disabilities at about 69%, Hispanic Latino students at 65.2, and homeless students at 66.7. So we're really moving towards that target. We've done a lot of work. We can see this year's data as well, as far as inching towards meeting our target for that. K2, so this is going to be one of the new measures from the state in the accountability for this. So we don't have a target developed yet. Currently, if we would have used that maybe this last year, we'd be sitting at 79.3% of our K2 students meeting the regular attender mark. It's a really positive place to start. Our 9th grade on track. For this last year, finished the school year with 91.4% of our students on track. Our target, because we do run relatively high in this, is to be equal to or greater than 95%. The subgroup data that we need to work on, the students experiencing poverty, was 75%. And then we had some other subgroups that were less than 10%, but because of less than 10, they get suppressed. Our 4-year graduation, and so remember, this is not the class of 2025. If you think back to 2024, for always a year behind us in the state. So we were at 89.8% for graduating on time. Our target for that year was 88.5, so we've just slightly exceeded that target. Subgroups to work on: students experiencing poverty were at 80.6, and students with disability at 80%. For 5-year completion, so this takes back to the cohort of 2023 graduating class, because these are students that took essentially another year. Current was 87.7%, and there's a distinction in how this is actually figured, and so you'll see that the actual data for us is 87.7%. The discrepancy in the way that the state figures the data, though, at a glance, is actually at 86.3%. Our actual data was 87.7%. Our target was at 92%. The 2 areas around students experiencing poverty at 81%, and our students with disabilities at 76.9%. ELA proficiency, we can see this for all grades, was at 35.2%. There's not a target for that. We've seen that broken down. Some of our subgroups, students experiencing poverty, again, pretty low, 23.9%. Students with disabilities at 18.9%, and the Hispanic Latino population at 32.5%. The 3rd grade English language arts, baseline 4. So in the end of the year, we were at 42.5%, and our target was 47.5%. Really close to that target. Math proficiency for all grades was at 35.3%. Again, there's no target developed for that. Students experiencing poverty at 21.8%, and students with disabilities at 14%. The Hispanic Latino population 35.5%. Our 8th grade math was at 21.9%. We've set a target for this next year, 25-26, to get that to 29%. So next steps, district-wide is our continued professional development and implementation related to high-quality Tier 1 instruction in diversity and math. Continue to expand our multi-tier systems of support for both academic and behavior. Continue with our interventions, tailored to focal groups around attendance. Elementary is to continue to strengthen foundational literacy instruction. K3, we'll have sharp monitoring of K2 attendance patterns to protect early learning gains. And that's also one of those new learning targets that the state has set for us. Middle school is the focus that we're putting on eighth grade math readiness, alignment to the high school's outward pathways, our tier 2 math supports using real-time progress monitoring, which is our STAR assessment system. Improved supports, as you can see through our data for students experiencing poverty, students with disabilities. If you don't meet our learning standards and benchmarks, and at the high school, improved supports for students experiencing poverty with disabilities, and graduation completion benchmark. And then ongoing monitoring for credit acquisition for on-track status as well. Overall, I think if you look at the actual color graphs and the nice arrows going up and down, anything where we've seen like a drop, the drop was relatively small, and so if you figure that percentage as far as our population, that is very few students. But we're seeing positive gains now. We're starting to get some of the arrows go in the right direction. So overall, a good sign of our systems starting to come together and stick. Questions?
So those will get updated now, like a year from now, for this year.
Yeah, so we'll see this again next year about the same time. And that's where it's, we talk about teaching to the test with these. That's part of the reason we really come up with the local assessment system. So we've got real-time data to monitor, where these really need to become the monitor how our systems are doing, how it's actually working. We've got the information tonight. How well is that doing towards achieving results for our students?
And then going forward, anytime we have data like this, that's gonna be multi-period, can we get it reported so like we can see the trend or how it's changing, not just single snapshots? Possible.
Absolutely. So like, I want to see even some multi-year.
If the data is available.
Well, it is in the sheets where it'll show you up or down and how much it actually makes on the sheets.
Oh, those, yeah.
Yeah, multi-year can be problematic with the state of in the state of Oregon, in my experience, because they often change the metrics of how they're figuring the change of the metrics. So it's not always comparable year after year after year. So we just have to remember that. Sure. Sure.
Quick question.
Yeah, did I hear you say that the whole grade was the highest for reading
Say again?
for reading, was it third grade was at the highest?
No, third grade is the measure that the state uses in the accountability. So they look specifically at third grade reading scores. Third grade is kind of seen as that benchmark. We want kids shifting to read and learn.
Any other questions or comments on that part?
And this is available on the website as well, if you want to use the place to go find it.
All right, next you have still you, Jim.
Yeah, it's the time of the year where we start to look at my goals and evaluation for mine. The first page here is just a reminder of where we set goals this year. Goal one was around staff engagement, and just a reminder, we didn't set goals around every single one this year, we put it down to 3. So goal 1 was around staff engagement, goal 2, instructional systems and student achievement, and goal 3 was around communications. The next is titled the superintendent will update with your review. So around the staff engagement, I put that as status is in progress. So we continue to actively strengthen staff engagement, improve communication, transparent data use, and responsive leadership practices. We had the concept of grounding that we were talking about through students. We saw a lot of conversations going on where we're asking questions of staff, we get feedback. Yeah, feedback is a good example. One of those principles. But that was originally identified as an action step in RAID goals. And it's been paused to prioritize critical district initiatives that require a lot of capacity of our administrative team. Specifically our student achievement work, the scorecard development that we've got to put all the action plans together, and the reporting and follow. And then we've also got the staff upbeat engagement survey. The survey results are shared tonight, and so they established a baseline for engagement with our staff. Overall participation rate, which I think was a great sign, was 92% of our staff took the survey. And then an average engagement score of 69%. The engagement score considers answers to each survey question, which has an aggregated weighting, and then certain categories have a higher weighting based on their stronger correlation with teacher turnover and research. And so notable strengths in that area were self-efficacy, which scored 92%, equal opportunities at 90%, collaboration at 80%, and impaired teacher communication at 89%. And then areas that opt out of this as far as the district-wide look for improvement was around professional development, appreciation, and the compensation career paths for teachers and staff. Building principles, as you heard tonight, to leveraging the data, to more formally guide internal staff. As far as identifying areas of concern and how we can engage teachers in work. Goal 2 was instructional system and student achievement. This is active and on track. So the district advanced multiple components of the goal 2 during the fall, focusing on data-driven improvement, aligned with state longitudinal targets for 3rd grade reading and 8th grade math. Building administrators presented the first quarter achievement reports tonight. The 2 upcoming reports are scheduled for early and late spring. We'll provide ongoing updates on district level actions to improve student achievement. Our use of the data systems, so STAR, and your Brendan mentioned as far as getting the STAR to actually contact and talk with our Oregon data suites. We have one place to go and find the data. And the building level assessment systems continue to guide intervention planning and instructional adjustments. Our leadership teams are using these tools to monitor progress toward longitudinal targets and actions to identify student needs. So you had to see an example of that tonight. A lot of data was disaggregated in ways, and then working with staff on how to look at that data and utilize it to increase student achievement. Professional learning and coaching, instructional coaching cycles, professional development activities, and development of new structures continue to reinforce Tier 1 instruction, intervention planning. In response to upbeat feedback indicating that PD remains a growth area, so there's 48% positive. While PD offerings remain directly in line with district initiatives, building principals will begin engaging more closely with staff to gather additional insights regarding both district-wide and individual professional development needs. So helping the district better understand the part can be strengthened. A lot of times we'll have a district initiative that we're moving through, that we are providing the professional development for teachers. There becomes that place where we engage teachers as far as what do they want, as far as engaging their own growth. It's that self-efficacy. Goal 3, communication and community relations is in progress. District-wide family survey will be deployed in January this next year. The survey will capture family reflections by school level, provide open-ended response for opportunities to gain understanding and perspective. Community partnership development. The district continues to expand relationships with civic and business partners. Notably, the district will soon receive its final contribution for the Track and Turf project. If you remember, in the beginning of the year, we brought a group of people together over the last year to start to raise funds to help with the Track and Turf project. And we just received our final check for that from a local business. We've also got through the Booster Club, the softball field is really close to having being in a position to have the turf being put down as well. Communication improvements. So following the fall social media incident district-wide, the electronic communication increased in frequency and clarity, and the shift is improved transparency and strengthened overall community engagement. Receiving a number of emails after a lot of those communications go out with folks that are engaging. Our administrators get engaged with it quite a bit as well from community members regarding that incident. District Equity Committee. So the Equity Committee has met twice, progressing through an orientation phase focused on understanding district needs through data and survey analysis. The committee began by reviewing the district's strategic objectives for the 3-year cycle, middle high school student survey results from the spring of 2025, and then refining its focus based on the nature and quality of the questions and the data received. At the most recent meeting, we had a member of Plain ESD staff that helped support small schools. Presented some more student data. The data set approach is guiding its the committee's effort to prioritize 25-26 work in line with the district objectives. So the next step across all goals is to deploy and analyze the January 26 family survey, develop and communicate upbeat follow-up action steps with staff that administrators are working on. Continue the execution of the spring achievements reporting cycles, so similar to what we did tonight. Maintain expanded community communication structures, and there'll be an opportunity to follow from the family survey that we send out to do that, and then continue the district equity community work. It's nice to say there's a lot going on in the district.
Yeah. For sure. Any questions or thoughts for the work? If your updates, goals.
And I shortened and changed the format a little bit for you as far as you want. 16 months, okay.
All right.
You appreciate that, update version. So,
Board communication, 8.1 calendar of events. Any updates on the upcoming events? Or any changes, I guess?
None I'm aware of right now. I got logged out of my computer. So it won't take time to get myself logged back in.
If I can find where we go. Okay.
Would you by chance have it up?
I have it up.
You have it up, yay.
Been signed up for the talent that happened on the 4th, Billy's got talent. Looked like everybody's had a chance to sign up for other things. Middle school, high school concert on the 17th, Education Foundation on the 18th. Then, middle school, high school band concert on the, I'll be there, but I don't know if we can also, I'm just going with my kids. Just put my name there anyway.
There you go, yeah. Couple meetings in January.
No. PTO, 13th, Brewster meeting at 13th, and Education Foundation 22nd.
All right. Any other business for anyone? Then,
That's just a placeholder if you guys have any sort of evaluative feedback from me.
at this point, not specifically, no. Okay, I wasn't sure, because I didn't see you in the packet per se, okay. Okay, was anybody else had any? You? No, already no, okay. Next board meeting, January 12th, right here at 7 p.m. Otherwise, we're adjourned.
I'm gonna go for it.